The original Dungeons & Dragons, commonly abbreviated D&D box set by Gary Gygax and Dave Arnson, was published by TSR Inc. in 1974. It included the original edition of the Dungeons & Dragons fantasy role-playing game. Its product designation was TSR 2002. The original Dungeons & Dragons box set was the first role-playing game, a fantasy system with a medieval European flavor. This set introduced concepts which would become standard in later editions, including abilities such as strength, intelligence, and dexterity. Character classes: Fighting Man, Magic User, Cleric and levels, races: Human, Dwarf, Elf, Halfling. Armor class: Monsters and treasure, subterranean dungeons of halls, rooms, and doors replete with tricks and traps, and magic items, such as intelligent swords. The set also includes rules for wilderness travel by land and sea, hiring specialists and men-at-arms, building fortifications, and setting up baronies. Movement rates and areas are given in inches, like that of the miniatures from which the system descended. The set also included brief guidelines on using monsters as player characters. This set features only a handful of the elements for which the game is known today. Just 3 character classes: Fighting Man, Magic User, and Cleric, 4 races: Human, Dwarf, Elf, Hobbit, and only 3 alignments: Lawful, Neutral, and Chaotic. The rules assume that players have owned and have played the miniatures wargame Chainmail, and that they have used its measurement and combat systems. An optional combat system is included within the rules that later developed into the sole combat system of later versions of the game. In addition, the rules presumed ownership of Outdoor Survival, an Avalon Hill board game for outdoor exploration and adventure. The Men and Magic booklet recommends using miniatures only if the players have them available and so desire, although they were not required, and cardboard counters were given as an alternative. The Monsters and Treasure booklet contains some of the first depictions of the game's most iconic monsters, many of which were adapted from mythology and various literary works. The initial printing of the set referred to some of the creatures in the game as hobbits and ents, after J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth creatures, although after legal difficulties they were changed to halflings and trents, respectively. The original Dungeons & Dragons set, subtitled Rules for Fantastic Medieval Wargames, campaigns playable with paper and pencil and miniature figures, was written by Gary Gygax and Dave Arnson, and was published by TSR in 1974 as a digest-sized box set in a brownwood grain box. The set included 3 digest-sized books: the 36-page Volume 1, Men and Magic, the 40-page Volume 2, Monsters and Treasure, and the 36-page Volume 3, The Underworld and Wilderness Adventures. The set also included 6 reference sheets of tables and charts. With a production budget of only $2,000 to produce 1,000 copies, the result was amateurish. Only $100 was budgeted for artwork, and Gygax pressed into service just about anyone who could hold a pencil, including local artist Cookie Curry, Greg Bell, a member of Jeff Perrin's gaming group, D&D CEO creator Dave Arnson, Gygax's wife's half-sister Keenan Pohl, and fellow TSR CEO founder Don Kay. Each artist was paid $2 for a small piece or $3 for a larger piece, with an identical amount paid as a royalty every time another 1,000 copies were printed. Several of Greg Bell's illustrations were based on comic book art, often from Strange Tales. The illustration of a sorcerer before a blazing cauldron in the second book is based on a panel from a Doctor Strange story in Strange Tales number 167. The cover art showing a sword-wielding Viking warrior on a rearing horse was also copied from Strange Tales number 167. This first set went through many printings and was supplemented with several official editions, including Greyhawk and Blackmore in 1975, and Eldritch Wizardry, but Demigods and Heroes and Swords and Spells in 1976. Later printings, beginning in 1976, came in an all-white box and added the label Original Collector's Edition. The initial printing of the Men and Magic booklet had a drawing of a mounted warrior on the cover, while the 1976 printing featured a fighter with a sword. The original Dungeons & Dragons was re-released in 2013 as part of a deluxe Premium Collector's Set, which includes reprints of the original box set booklets and the 4 supplement booklets in a wooden box. Each booklet features new cover art, but is otherwise a faithful reproduction of the original, including original interior art. Tim Waddle reviewed the original Dungeons & Dragons in the Space Gamer 2. Seven Waddle commented that the most stimulating part of the game is the fact that anything can happen. Nothing is impossible. Seven Andy Pewdwa also reviewed the original Dungeons & Dragons in the Space Gamer No. 2. Pewdwa said that, as a game, D&D is a fantastical outlet for the imagination. It has the quality of being infinitely flexible, and with it comes the reality of impossibility. There are drawbacks to the game, however. As there are in any game, D&D cannot even begin to get interesting in less than 20 hours playing time. Hundreds of hours of work must be done ahead of time by the referee, and it takes a fairly long time to prepare on the part of the players. Gary Gygax won the Strategist Club's Outstanding Designer and Writer for the creation of Dungeons & Dragons. The set is also an H.G. Wells Award winner. On December 9, 2016, a first printing of the box set was sold on an eBay auction for over $20,000. The original Dungeons & Dragons has won plenty of awards, including Origins Awards All-Time Best Role-Playing Rules, 1977. Origins Awards Greatest Contribution to the Hobby, 1967 and 1977. Origins Awards Adventure Gaming Hall of Fame, 1977. Strategists Club Award Best New Game, 1974. Pen and Paper RPG Hall of Fame, 2002. Scribe Player's Choice All-Time Favorite Role-Playing Game, 2006. Games Magazine Hall of Fame, 1984. This ends this video on the history of the original Dungeons & Dragons. Please like and subscribe for more history, read-alongs, and reviews of classic tabletop games.